And away we go. It's your DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockwood along with you on this Wednesday morning, the 2nd of January, 2019. Welcome to the new year. Dave, how was your New Year's Eve? And how are you on this Wednesday morning?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Everything went well. I got home safe, and it was a good night. I got home. We went out to dinner with some friends. We had a late dinner, like 9:00 dinner, and went to a restaurant that was kind of like some German food. You ever have schnitzel?
I have, yes.
Holy schnitzel, man. That was not planned. It was really dumb. If I would not plan something like so dumb, but I was about to curse, and I didn't want to curse that quick into the show. That stuff is delicious, man.
It is.
Really, really delicious. And had some of that, had some scallops. Not all of it was German, of course.
Right.
Had a couple drinks, but, paced myself, got home. Then we drank a little bit more, watched the ball drop, which is dumb, but,
got to do it.
She likes it. We had the neighbors over and some friends. So it was fun. I didn't get to sleep till like 4 a.m., had the 9 a.m. show. So that wasn't it.
Yeah, you and Josh both looked a little worse for wear at the opening of that show.
Start that one off for sure.
It was very much a backwards hat sweatshirt sort of vibe to it. But
but it was good. How about you? You have a good one?
Yeah, I was telling you before, my whole house is sick, so I'm fighting off the cold. My youngest had a fever and double ear infection. Middle kid has a fever. Oldest kid has a cold. My wife has the cold. So we all went to bed early, and I tried to stay up. And I told the oldest, I was like, listen, if I'm awake for the ball dropping, I will wake you up 10 minutes before, and we'll watch it, and I'll put you back to bed. I ended up falling asleep at 11:25, woke back up at 12:04, looked at the clock and went, damn it. I went back to sleep. That's my life these days. So there was a lot of weird coverage out there, lots of craziness that involves New Year's Eve that I'm kind of over at my advanced age. So it was fun. It was fine. But nonetheless, all the kids are on the mend. Hopefully they go back to school later this morning as we're not quite sure yet. We're waiting to see how the fevers and the colds break out. And I also will say, not that he listens to this podcast, today is my brother's birthday, so happy birthday to my brother Steven. He has never once listened to this podcast. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
He could, not even close. But he's a good dude. So happy birthday to him.
And he was in a commercial, which is also pretty sweet.
He was, and he also has his first play that he wrote being produced in Chicago over the next few weeks. So congrats to him on that.
Pretty gnarly. Congrats,
based on our family a bit. So I'm in the play. Like I have to go see it. So I can see what the hell he actually thinks of me. But right. So to Alex, who I know is in Chicago, and former colleague Brian and Vots and all those Chicago folks. I don't know if it's really your cup of tea, but you should go check it out. Let's talk 9 games.
I'm sure they'll be right there.
Yeah, top front of the line. 9-game slate here. We have a ton to break down as always, but the more important breakdown always comes in the deep dive. That's available over at Awesemo.com. To be a member, you can use the promo code EARLYBIRD. That is one word. EARLYBIRD, despite my pronunciation there. And you get 1 week free of everything. You get to see Alex's grades. It's Awesemo's grades over there. You get the projections from Josh and from Andrew. You get Dave's write-up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You get Adam's write-up Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. All the shows are free on YouTube, but that content is not. That's all behind the paywall, including then the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. So use that promo code. And on Wednesday, Dave has your write-up. 9 games he'll break down. We're going to go first look here. So what we're looking at is sort of a first check-in on the top plays, what Dave sees, what I may see as we go through, and then we'll talk more on Wednesday with the strategy show in the morning, the deep dive at 5, live before lock, and the written content. So we have some question marks on this slate. We have
big question marks. Anthony
Davis was sick on Monday, so we are waiting to hear word if he's still sick. I haven't seen anything new on him. You have Embiid, who started Tuesday night against the Clippers with the knee, but have you heard anything about back-to-backs now that this knee has flared back up for Joel Embiid?
Oh, the thing is, we don't even really know if it flared back up or if it was just, like, all right, like it's a little bit sore. We'll give you a break, and then we don't really know much at all. They've kept things under wraps, and it's frustrating. That's what they do in Philadelphia, and that in the Sixers organization, we've seen for years it's been under rest, whether it was Embiid's health, whether it was Simmons' health, whether it was Fultz's health. Like
Yep.
you really don't know. And the ownership change or the GM change hasn't really made a difference. So no, I have no idea. Let's see how this one plays out. I mean, it's 10:30 on the East Coast right now, so that game's just about to tip off. We'll get a look. We'll see if he's limited. See what Brett Brown says after the game, and we'll take it from there. But like Kyrie Irving has a scratched eye.
Yep.
That's not really great, and Stevens doesn't really know if it's going to hold him out. They've got a home matchup against Minnesota, so that's going to open up. If he's out, that's going to open up some wild value. I know Rozier was preemptively priced up on DraftKings, but hey, so was Tyus Jones, and he did us pretty well with Rose and Teague out the other day. 41 fantasy points in 38 minutes because, Thibodeau likes to run his guys till the wheels fall off if given the opportunity. My New Year's resolution is to forget Anthony Davis exists. Dude, come on, man. I know I said this on the strategy show, but I'll say it again. You're already made of paper mache physically, and now your immune system is shutting down. I don't say that. I say it jokingly. You don't ever want the guy to, just rot away. But it's amazing. Twice over the last couple of weeks now, he's either left in game with an illness or been scratched right after tip or right before tip, like a minute before tip. It's crazy. It's so difficult. It's so difficult to continue getting behind Davis. And it's funny is DraftKings, how they factor ownership into the pricing.
Right.
Well, Davis went up $600 since, $200 since. No, he was 11.5. So he went up $300 since last game, despite not playing. I'm assuming he was pretty popular. I didn't even look. I saw that he was out. I had some on DraftKings. I was out to dinner. I'm like, well, I'm screwed. Played light. It was New Year's, dude. I'm not going to take those risks. I didn't even check, but I'm assuming that he was a pretty popular play, judging by Twitter when I looked later that night. So yeah, you have Anthony Davis who is questionable, or whatever the hell's going on with him. I don't even know. As you mentioned, it's possible that Joel Embiid doesn't play against Phoenix, and well, that would certainly open some things up. LeBron James has already been ruled out. Think about this: 3 of the top 4 priced guys on DraftKings are either out or questionable because LeBron's already out. Vucevic, here's another one. He is questionable as well. Left with that calf injury, played only 23 minutes, so that seems to be something that's at least significant enough to possibly hold him out against Chicago. Kyrie Irving's another one. There was one.
Mirotic is already out against Brooklyn.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And Derrick Rose is doubtful. So you have a doubtful Derrick Rose. Not only that, though, but now you have Robert Covington questionable. We probably won't get news on that until later. Hopefully we will. Tristan Thompson is still questionable against the Miami Heat. I don't think that matters all that much because he's still priced reasonably high. Kent Bazemore is out for 2 weeks. I'm just going to run through it real quick just so we can get through all this. Jeremy Lamb is considered doubtful, so that's kind of decent news. Dwayne Dedmon, who had been playing excellent basketball, especially with Len out, he has already been ruled out. Jeff Teague, here's another one. Jeff Teague is questionable. Rose is doubtful, so we'll see what happens there. Otto Porter looks like he's going to play. The list goes on, man. Rondae Hollis-Jefferson is without a timetable to return. There are just a lot of injuries here. The list keeps moving. Markieff Morris is still out. Taurean Prince is still out. And I'm sure I'm missing some. There's a lot of injuries and not a lot of no-namers, a lot of notable injuries. The last one I'll give you, Cody Zeller is also out here, already been ruled out. So it looks like you're probably going to see a good amount of Guillermo Hernan-Gomez against Dallas. We got a lot to talk about, man.
We will go through position by position as we've seen. MPE does blur the lines a bit. We do use DraftKings as our jumping off point. If something stands out drastically over on FanDuel, we'll make sure to call it out. Yahoo is continuing to, I think now they are going rake free.
Just calling it, management fee free, right? Of course.
Not adding the cash overlay as they called it, but I believe they're going rake free. I haven't looked at the tournaments for Wednesday as of yet, but they're filling early. So if you're a fan of Yahoo's format, their scoring, or the fact that there's no management fee. You want to get over there early and often to register for those games. And I should say, I believe our promo code of Osmo still works over there on yahoo.com. So
yeah. It's really like FanDuel. I told you this before. It's like FanDuel in 2000. I know a lot of people listening to this probably weren't playing DFS in 2012, but if you didn't enter games that night, like the night before the games, or the very early the next morning, say before 10 or 11 a.m., all of their biggest tournaments were filled on FanDuel.
Yep. Absolutely. And one that good for Yahoo. The marketing push worked here in weeks 16 and 17 of the NFL, and they seem to be getting a bit more traffic now. Whether or not that sticks, we'll wait and see. We'll see how.
Do they continue to eliminate rake, or do people keep playing once? Right, so that like
if they jump back up to a 10 to 12% management fee per tournament.
Right. Yeah. What's your customer acquisition fee or price really going to look like? You know, like what are you really paying to acquire each customer? Because my guess is when these disappear, there will be a lot of people that stop playing there. Maybe the idea is that they play those contests and then they play in the other contests, many of them that I guess do have rake, but a lot of them don't. Like all of their biggest ones have no rake. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out for sure.
All right, we're going to start at point guard as always and make our way through. Intriguing position when you don't have Harden involved here because you start off with Westbrook. You don't have Harden. You don't have Curry. So you start off with Westbrook at 11-7, then you drop down to Kemba at 9K against Dallas, which is a very good spot. We've seen some high upside from point guards against Dallas in the past this season. Ben Simmons has a matchup with Phoenix, 8,900. Haven't looked at the spread on that, but I can't imagine it's a close one. Although I guess Phoenix has been playing pretty well over the past 2 weeks, so maybe it's closer than
we're not going to have a spread on that for.
Oh, because 76ers are playing right now. That's why.
Yeah.
Drew Holiday, Booker, Conley, and I should say that the Suns actually have been playing fairly well over the past couple weeks.
No, this game will be close. Wouldn't be surprised if Phoenix wins.
Lonzo Ball
on the second of a back-to-back on the road on a lengthy road trip,
especially if Embiid happens to sit because of the back-to-back and then the potential knee injury.
Right.
Zach LaVine is at 6,600. That stands out. We talked about his usage a couple of podcasts ago. Matchup with Orlando here seems just fine. You mentioned Teague and Derrick Rose with the question marks. Tyus Jones is up to 5,600. Matchup with Boston is not one I want to go after with a backup to a backup point guard. Schroeder, Josh Hart, Peyton are all just above 5K. So lots to talk about here at point guard. Don't want to stay too long as we don't want to have a 2-hour podcast here. But what are some of your favorite plays here at the one, and who do you see as guys you may be writing up in the deep dive come Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, right now we have a good amount of value already, or at least I won't say already, but there's a few doubtful guys that are definitely going to open things up. And that's well, you know what? I'll get to that after we talk about the top price guys. Russell Westbrook, I talked about it last show, so I won't get into it. But his shooting at the rim, I think I talked about that. How
you did, yeah.
If he begins to shoot more at the rim, and really just and the funny thing is he's actually shooting more at the rim than he has since his first season in the league, and he's shooting a career best 65%. So I mean, all of that is really good, and all of that leads me to believe that we're going to see improvements in scoring. I actually said that the day of before he scored 32 points with a 72 fantasy point triple-double against Dallas. That's not surprising because he's one of the most dominant players when he gets to the rim like that, right? Interestingly, though, in that game, he made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of his shots. No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of his made field goals were mid-range jumpers outside of the paint, right? And then I think he made about 6 shots, he made 9 on mid-range shots and only 4 at the rim, which is crazy. I don't expect that to continue. That's the thing. Like he's not that great of a shooter, but it kind of doesn't matter because he's facing the Lakers. And I absolutely love this spot for Russell Westbrook. It doesn't matter. He's going to get to the rim at will. We know that. I don't even know if Anthony Davis is going to play. As you pointed out, no Harden on the slate certainly changes the entire dynamic. I absolutely love Russell Westbrook here against the Lakers. Yeah, is Lonzo Ball playing decent defense this season? He is, but it's hard to worry about that in a game that is going to see a ridiculous amount of scoring. The total's at 230 right now. Wouldn't be surprised to see it increase. OKC 5.5-point favorites. I think this game stays close. I just really, really like Russell Westbrook here. Now, is he expensive? Yeah, his price has come up. But he has 80 fantasy point upside, 75 fantasy point upside here, no question. It's just a really good spot, and I love him. If Embiid sits, Ben Simmons is really interesting. Even if Simmons played, I would still not be opposed to Simmons. But I think on a slate like this, it could be tough to get there. If Embiid is out, though, I have no problem paying this price point for Ben Simmons. He's 89 on DraftKings against Phoenix. Yes, Phoenix is playing better basketball of late. I think that's a pretty fair statement. But this is still a Phoenix Suns team that over the last month ranks 27th in defensive efficiency or defensive rating. You know, they still have the fourth worst net rating in the league. They're still a team that is struggling and that is going to struggle defensively. If you take that back instead of the last month, if you were to take it back over the last 2 weeks, they have definitely made some improvements, right? They are only 10th worst in net rating, and in defensive efficiency, they are only 5th worst. So look, it's still really bad. I say that in jest. Like they have not made any defensive improvements here. They're just keeping games close because they have some decent scores, and DeAndre Ayton is rebounding well and starting to score more, which is nice to see. So Ben Simmons here, it's a really good spot. And I watched Russell Westbrook just absolutely carve them up at the rim. That's Ben Simmons' forte. That's where I would expect him to do the bulk of his damage. And I think he will get there at will. So, yeah, I like it. Anyway, I also like Devin Booker here. I had a whole lot of Devin Booker when he faced Philly earlier this season. We say it all the time. Shoot first, ball dominant guards have really carved up the Sixers this season. And this continues up until like each and every game, even McCollum last game before they blew them out. Just they go on to put up huge numbers against them. Devin Booker earlier this season put up 37 and 55. He is a perfect play here. I think the price point at 8,300 is very, very reasonable. So at the top of the position, you know, you mentioned Zach LaVine, and I don't even have an issue with Zach LaVine. I just think it's going to be tough to get to him because there are so many damn good plays in that 8K range. And of course, Russell Westbrook. It's going to make it tough. There are a lot of really good guys in that upper mid-range and top tier.
I do like LaVine's price tag has stayed below 7K and has kept it at least palatable here, that you could get the upside of a Booker or Kyrie when healthy from a LaVine if he's hitting his shots at a much lower price point. But the Simmons is the one who stands out to me the most, especially with the potential Embiid news. Phoenix lacking a lot of the defensive integrity to stop someone like Simmons if the lane is open for him. So big fan of him at 8,900. What do you make of some of the cheaper options? You already mentioned there's plenty of value, or at least potential value, that you're already seeing. What are some of those names and guys that you at least want folks to have as part of a potential player pool or back pocket in case they need them?
Yeah, so I've always stood by the idea that when Irving is out, Rozier is the guy. If a guy like Jaylen Brown is out, it's Marcus Smart. I trust Marcus Smart more when Irving's healthy because he's not relying on scoring to get the job done. Rozier, you're just not going to see the usage the minutes when Irving is healthy because he's the primary backup in Boston at point guard. But if Irving sits, Rozier is going to see 30-plus minutes here, and he's going to be the primary facilitator, and he's going to see quite a bit of opportunities to score in those minutes as well. So, yes, his price is up, but Rozier would be a very, very certainly would be a quality play here. There's no denying that. A couple of other guys, Trae Young is 65, but I think actually if I'm going here, because this is not a good Washington defense, we know that. They're actually better defensively with John Wall off the court, but still not good whatsoever, right? This is still a rough team. Defensively, they're bottom 10 over the last 2 weeks. December, even worse than that. Jeremy Lin is another cheap guy where if he gets the minutes, this could be a really interesting spot, but only in tournaments. And the reason I say that is because Malik Monk is likely going to, and rightfully so, he'll probably be chalk here because Jeremy Lamb is doubtful to play. So if Jeremy Lamb doesn't play, I would expect Monk to soak up a whole lot of minutes here. That would be the case. Lamb played 9 minutes in that last game. Monk played 24, but assuming he even takes away like 5 of those 9 that he played, you're probably going to get like 29 minutes from Monk, 28 to 30 minutes, I'd say, and I'm okay with that. He's really, really cheap. He's point guard, shooting guard eligible. That would be a really solid value play that you're going to have to target whether you want to or not. And I'm bouncing back between point guard and shooting guard here. Satoransky is still cheap enough. Do I love him? No, not now that he isn't close to minimum salary, but he's going to play 30-plus minutes. He's going to draw the best matchup that he's seen all season with John Wall out, and that should really bolster his fantasy totals and his per-minute production. So, yeah, Satoransky remains in play as well. Keep an eye, though, at whether it's like keep an eye on Charlotte, whether it's Monk or Devontae Graham, because he played 24 minutes in that game as well against Orlando, where Lamb went out after 9 minutes. And it was a blowout. So, again, it's hard to say. I'll look back at Popcorn Machine and write all of that down in the deep dive and make sure we have a pretty good idea, of who we expect James Borrego to go with as a starter or to soak up the bulk of those minutes. But it's going to be Graham or Monk. Maybe they split them. My money's on Monk still. But you might see Graham start because you want Monk off the bench, but Monk could still play 38 minutes or so. Aside from that, though, I think that's of course, look, the matchup is not good. Even if Irving is out, we know Rozier is a good defender, but Tyus Jones is probably going to play close to 40 minutes again, and minutes over matchup, right? We say it all the time. If the price is right, the minutes are more important than the matchup, and we've seen that countless times. Just look at James Harden. Clearly, Tyus Jones is not James Harden, but he's also not $12,000. He's $5,600, and that opens things up.
Any reward to taking a risk on Dennis Smith Jr. at 4,800 as his minutes hopefully will start to increase coming back from injury?
I don't think it's crazy. I mean, Doncic is clearly the guy there. I don't love it. I mean, I'd rather do it on Yahoo, where I haven't looked, but he's probably still minimum salary or $11. Sure. I actually, here's the thing. I don't think you need to, right? Like, he's been out a while. And not only has he been out a while, but his minutes, should he see 30 minutes going forward? You would think so, but we don't know. I mean, at this rate, I think Satoransky at $200 discount is probably a better play. And it sounds crazy to say that, but I mean, he's at least going to get a ton of run here, and he's facing Atlanta, so it's a great spot. I even think, someone who's been playing really well lately, he's questionable to play in this game, but DJ Augustine, look at his last 3 games. He's been producing monster numbers. Sometimes you got to ride the wave until it crashes, right? Just catch that lightning in a bottle, and then when it stops and he comes back down to earth, well, there you have it. And a lot of times you don't want to be trying to jump on at the end of it, but the difference with DJ Augustine, and this is again really important, his price hasn't come up as a result, right? Actually, his price is down $200 from the last time he's played, Dan. He has 44, 28, and 46 fantasy points over his last 3 games, and he's basically the same price, actually cheaper than he was last time out. So I'd rather go to Augustine here, who's getting monster playing time in the starting lineup if he's healthy enough to go.
All right. You've already started touching on shooting guard, but we will go through it just the same here to try to get your best plays early on. And it's great for once, and maybe price tag isn't great, but we have an actual shooting guard only eligible player as our first player on the board, and that's Bradley Beal at 8,600. 3,600 would be fantastic for Beal, but 8,600 for Beal here against Atlanta seems like a prime spot. This is a team that now has no John Wall, out for the season for the what was it, a heel
surgery, yeah.
Heel surgery that he opted, it seems, to have. It was needed, but one that he went for past couple of days. And so Beal, we've seen in the past, is somebody that sometimes is great, sometimes struggles with being the lead dog for the Washington Wizards. Usage should be there. and has a matchup with Atlanta to start. So assume he'll be at least part of a lot of people's plans on Wednesday evening. You have Doncic eligible here at 7,800 against Charlotte. Spencer Dinwiddie, Butler, D'Angelo Russell, and Josh Richardson all in the same grouping here. Levine eligible, done. Brandon Ingram, we can go on from there. I assume Booker still in your plans at least to write up at this position, but is Brad Beal sort of far and away an easy play to see here at 8,600, or do you think that price tag's too high?
Well, let me ask you, what do you think about Beal here?
I think he's going to have to be part of your cash game plans. I think his ownership's going to be really high, and I think that the upside's there for him to have a gigantic night. I just feel like I've been burned more often than not from solo Beal, that I will probably temper it in GPPs, but I think from a cash game perspective that shooting guard disappoints at times, especially I haven't looked at his price at FanDuel, but where I have to play 2 over on FanDuel, I'll probably have a good deal of Bradley Beal if I'm playing over there.
9,800.
All right.
That's too much.
It is 9-game slate. So yeah.
Here's why it's too much. Because Devin Booker's 8,600 against Philly. Drew Holiday's 8,600 against Brooklyn. Even Doncic is 7,800. So that's a crazy price point. Almost as crazy as $6,500 Josh Hart. I know he's playing well, but I'm not buying into that price point.
So where do you stand on DK at 8,600?
I think that's reasonable, very reasonable. I don't think it's crazy though to say that leaning Booker there is a bad move though. Look, Beal's played 207 minutes with Dwight Howard, John Wall, and Markieff Morris off the court this year. 33.6% usage, very solid. 24% assist rate, not bad. 8.6% rebounding rate, good for his standards, and 1.3 fantasy points per minute. I have no issue with that. The difference between Beal and many other players is very simple. This dude's minutes, his playing time are just locked into 38 plus minutes per game. And that to me is something you really can't ignore. Even though his prices come up, the Wizards are 5-point favorites. This game has a 229.5 point total. So by the way, there's 3 games right now with a 230 total or 229 or higher. So you're going to see some high scoring games. I think Beal's a very good play. I don't see him as a must play, but he is a very good play. And I just, it comes down to Beal or Booker. Maybe you get both in there. It's very possible. If you don't play Westbrook, I doubt you're going to get all 3 of them with Westbrook. Maybe there will be value. But yeah, look, he's a high usage guy in this spot, very high usage. He's facing the fastest paced team in the league in the Atlanta Hawks, facing a team that allows more points to any other team. He's also facing a team that when it comes to 3-point shooting has been dreadfully bad, allowing the second highest 3-point percentage to their opponents, a tenth of a percentage lower than the Timberwolves, just across the board. Bad defense, and Kent Bazemore's out, so that backcourt defense is going to get even worse. Yeah, look, I really do like Beal, but $9,800 on DraftKings, Dan, there's no way I can pull the trigger on that. To me, it's too steep.
All right, what else do you? Wow, what else do you got here at shooting guard? There are some talented players with decent price tags across DraftKings, but obviously some of these questionable and out tags will divert some attention. So who do you got at least as that first group of players you think you'll be writing up?
Yeah, well, Drew Holiday's price has come down considerably. I like him even if Davis plays, but if Davis is out, Drew Holiday would vault past Devin Booker. So right now it's tough because we don't necessarily know what the injury scenario is going to be. But Drew Holiday's 83 on DraftKings. He's 86 on FanDuel, and he's been the highest priced shooting guard on most slates. So to see his price come down like that is pretty nice. And it's reasonable too. He shouldn't have been as high as he was. But he is quietly having a really good, you realize he's averaging 44 fantasy points per game on the year?
Yeah, he's had a great run. Him and Julius Randle, I think, are just so quietly under the radar because of Anthony Davis on that team.
Absolutely. Let me just give you his last 9 games on DraftKings. 45, 39, 50 or 60, 47, 44, 45, 42, 43, 42. So he's been under 40 once in his last 9, and it was 39 fantasy points. And then the one bad game over his last 10 was 10 games ago, against Boston. Drew Holiday is a good play regardless. He's a safe play regardless. I would play him in cash, no problem, against Brooklyn. I also think this game is going to stay very close. We don't we do have a line, interestingly. New Orleans 1-point favorites here, a 230.5 total. How do you not like Drew Holiday here? I really like shooting guard. I really like Booker. I like Beal at 86. I really like Holiday. I love Holiday. If Davis is out again, he'll be the top option here. I don't know what's going on with Davis right now, though. Is he expected to play? Is it?
I haven't seen anything new. It's just the last notes I still see are that he missed Monday's game because of illness.
I'm seeing now. I see one source that says he's probable, but
it makes sense unless.
But he's Anthony Davis. It's like
right.
you don't know. Is something going to flare up? I don't even know what these illnesses have been. But even if he plays, Drew Holiday is a solid option against Brooklyn. 230 total, man. It's a great spot, and I like him quite a bit. We already talked about a lot of the value here that. Depending on the site, Monk, Satoransky has eligibility here. Devontae Graham, let's see what happens with the starting line. I prefer Monk, but we'll keep an eye on it because that's important. If Irving's out, you have Terry Rozier, and then you have Marcus Smart, who wouldn't be as good a play as Rozier, but he's also way cheaper. And I would put Marcus Smart probably around 31 minutes, and at $4,300 on DraftKings, I have no problem with that. 47 on FanDuel, I think you can do better just because there are a few guys that are too cheap. But yeah, you heard it. Like some of these guards are just way too affordable to pass up. And one more value guy that I'll throw at you. He's risky. There's no question. A lot of risk comes into play here because he plays on a team with Westbrook and Paul George, who is also quietly having a phenomenal season. But Dennis Schroeder is another one. He will have some real good games and some real bad games at this price, but facing the Lakers, super high total in this one. I like him. And by the way, Dan, you know what the Mandela effect is, right?
I've seen it talked about a lot of late. I don't know specifically what it is. No.
How do you spell Chick-fil-A?
CHIK-FIL-A. Okay.
So this is the biggest this is one of the biggest Mandela effects, at least, that people talk about. Chick-fil-A is actually CHICK, but everyone remembers it as CHIK. No one remembers it actually spelled as CHICK. So it's things, the Mandela effect is where you swear you remember something exactly as it is, but it isn't exactly as
that's like the Berenstain Bears thing from a couple of years back.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. That is people use that as an example of the Mandela effect, where people say, like, did they go back and change history, right, this and that, or is it just messing with your memory? But I specifically remember CHIK, and you just spelled it that way as well. I'm sure you remember it, even seeing it on the sign.
Mm-hmm.
I swear people have a Mandela effect with Schroeder. I don't, because I write his name up all the time. I've been writing basketball for a long time, but I've never seen a name misspelled, a simple name misspelled, as much as Dennis Schroeder. Everyone adds an E.
Yeah, because because of the sound, because of the pronunciation. Yep.
Yeah. Everyone adds an E to his name. Now, I know Schroeder with an E is actually spelled. There is a correct spelling like that, of a last name. But still, I've never seen, and I don't really think it's a Mandela effect. I find it fun to reference that. It's crazy how many people message me or ask me, or I see even guys that even analysts, guys that do this, spell Schroeder with an E in it. And you'd think by now we'd have gotten it right, but it's one name people just can't figure out.
Well, because we don't, in our version of the alphabet, we don't use, was it an umlaut? Not an umlaut. What's the two dots above the O? It's not an umlaut.
No idea. Never took German.
But that's where the pronunciation comes from. Like, it's that O with the two dots above it is specifically pronounced the way, where in our version of English in the alphabet, we need the E. So we just sort of jam it in there because our brains want it to be there. That's funny. I had to
keep an eye out for it. If you're listening, keep an eye out for how many people. I bet people listening now are like, wait, I always spell it with an E. Nope.
Definitely.
Well, there's an E in his name, before the R at the end, but it's SCHRODER. Right.
It's spelled how you would want to say Schroeder. Like that. It is exactly written, but the
Yep.
two dots I have to look up what the hell that word is. But small forward, I also have to look up Chick-fil-A just to see it written out. But I feel like the signs with the cows have CHIK, but now I'm gonna have to go
I know. I'm
find
telling you.
those. Damn it. Berenstain Bears. Small forward up next. We looked that up for anybody who wants to go down a rabbit hole. The Berenstain Bears versus Berenstain Bears. If you read those books growing up, as I did, you will get your mind bent a little bit. Small forward, you have LeBron out. You mentioned Paul George has been great. Fine matchup here. 9,200 is a high price point, but the guy's been great. The floor is there. The ceiling is pretty damn high, even with Westbrook on the court. Simmons, you've talked about already. Doncic, we've talked about a bit. We get Butler, Winslow, Aaron Gordon here. TJ Warren is 6,600. We can sort of go on from there. Simmons, I guess, comes right back into the conversation. Who else do you have here at small forward?
Yeah. Simmons, we already talked about. And then if Embiid doesn't play, well, that's a totally different story, right? Paul George, though, once again, I don't want to make any wild statements because we've already talked about a lot of 8K guys, right? Other than Westbrook, we've talked about a lot of 8K guys that we love. And we're only through two positions. So will it be kind of difficult to pay for Paul George? Yeah, it could be, but this is also a really good spot. And I think he'll have low ownership here in a game where he could go for 60 fantasy points. Now, is that going to be enough? I don't know. It could be. And in this game, a 230 total, going to see a ton of scoring. I expect it to stay close. 9,200 for Paul George is not that crazy. At 10K on FanDuel, that's a little bit more, but it's not insane. 92 for a guy that's been as remarkably, he's averaging just shy of 50 DraftKings points per game this season, right? And even with Westbrook back, these guys got a 30% usage rate. He's putting up big numbers. He's still averaging, I think, like 1.37 fantasy points per minute since Westbrook returned. All of those numbers are perfectly reasonable and would suggest that he's still worth playing at that price point. Now, I don't like playing Kawhi at that price point. I actually think that to some extent, I'm willing to put Paul George in the same category there, in that it's more likely that they finish between like 45 and 55 than have that monster game. But in a spot like this, and I would say the same with Kawhi, against the Lakers in a high-scoring game, I'm willing to bend the rules a little bit. It's gonna depend on how my roster construction shakes out and whether or not he fits. If he fits, then I'm perfectly fine with it. If not, I'm also perfectly fine with it. Aaron Gordon has small forward eligibility. I think he's a pretty solid play. Look, if Vooch is out, then I'm going to have a lot of Aaron Gordon at 6,800. I mean, it's a really good price point for him there. Against the Chicago front court, that doesn't concern me much at all. The position in general, though, isn't that great. And, of course, we're still waiting to see, it's the night before, but what injuries are going to look like, because that could free some things up. Does Damari Carroll get additional run? I don't know if it would matter, but he's had 2 consecutive solid games. When he's fully healthy and getting 30 minutes or more, Kawhi Leonard or Damari Carroll at 4,000 flat is perfectly fine, and he's played 31 and 35 minutes over his last 2 games. And we have Rondae Hollis-Jefferson out too, which obviously makes a difference. From a value standpoint, though, outside of Carroll, who I think there's a good chance, depending on how news breaks, might not even be necessary. It's kind of ugly here. You got guys like DeAndre Bembry.
Well, that's where I was going to go. You have Bazemore and Taurean Prince still out, and you have Herter and Bembry, right? Like that's where you have to focus your attention from Atlanta.
Yeah, and it is a really good matchup. Again, certain times matchups don't matter all that much, depending on the player. But with guys that aren't very good, it does matter. And Bembry isn't especially stellar on the basketball court, at least not yet. So the last game Bazemore played was the 29th. So the 31st, they lost by 8 points to Indy, and Bembry played 28 minutes. So, that's not bad. Kevin Huerter's already been playing decent minutes. He played 40 minutes in that game.
Yep.
40 minutes. If he's going to be playing around that, then I guess you have to consider him, but it's not the best feeling because Huerter's one of those guys that if he gives you 28 fantasy points, even across 35, 40 minutes, you're happy. He just doesn't have a high ceiling. He doesn't do much. He's a spot up 3-and-D type of guy that it's going to be tough to get a really strong performance from him. But with both those guys out, we know one thing, and it's that he's definitely going to get the minutes.
All right, ready to move on to power forward?
Yeah, I'll just throw Trevor Ariza out there because, again, Scott Brooks likes to kill his starters, especially his vets. Trevor Ariza price is coming up a little bit. He's still under 6K on DraftKings, though. And if you look at the minutes, Dan, and these are minutes in regulation for almost all of these games, 41, 40. That was on a back-to-back, too. 40 on the first, 41 on the second of a back-to-back, 38. Those are his, I guess, 3 games. How many games has he played since coming over? I don't even know. I just know that – oh, no, he's played – okay, I think only 3 – no, I'm totally wrong. He's played like 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's got to be up around there. Yep.
He's played, let's see, 7, and he's played 38 minutes, 36, 54 in the triple overtime game against Phoenix, 28 the very next night. That chalked that up 100% to the fact that he played 54 minutes the night before that, then 38, 40, and 41. I mean, he's playing low end 38 minutes a game, and while he's not a high per minute guy, the minutes definitely make up for it. The matchup with Atlanta definitely makes up for it. I could see Ariza crossing 40 fantasy points again here. It just depends on what his minutes look like with Trevor or with Otto Porter back in the lineup. My guess is that he continues to see a ton of run while Jeff Green's minutes go down significantly.
I do want to point out, and this does not absolve me from the Mandela effect, but on the signs where the cows are there saying to eat more chicken, it is CHIKIN. So somewhere in the deep recesses of my brain, I think I'm validated slightly.
And more is spelled wrong.
Right. Well, everything's spelled wrong, but right. The chicken is.
Yeah, right. But I'm saying most people see it as like actual Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
I see what you're saying. Maybe there's a connection there. It's still weird.
Oh, it's totally weird. I was just trying to absolve myself slightly from
it.
Let's, because I'm never wrong, damn it. Power forward up next. How much do we like John Collins here against Washington? Washington without a bunch of their front court. Collins has been great on the season. You probably have Dedmon out, it would seem, looking doubtful with the knee injury. Could be upgraded, obviously, throughout the day on Wednesday. But Collins at 8,200, is that price point creeping too high for you? Or do you still like him in this matchup with Washington?
Well, I like him quite a bit, actually. It doesn't mean
how many Hawks are too many Hawks?
I know, right? Well, actually, Herter and Bembry and Lin and Young and all those guys are really not great plays. So, I mean, they're fine. Most of them are fine. They make sense, but they're not priorities whatsoever. Like if you end up with 3 Hawks in your lineup, change it because you really don't know what Lloyd Pierce is going to do, even with all of these injuries. There's only a few guys where we really have a good idea of what their minutes are going to look like. And, John Collins is definitely one of them if he's not in foul trouble. He's seeing upwards of 37, 39 minutes in competitive games. He's instant double-double, even in these bad games. He has double-doubled in 9 of his last 10 games. And the game that he didn't, he had 29 and 8, right? He's been spectacular. When I talk about flying under the radar, I wouldn't say he is, but in terms of consistency, it's been like Drew Holiday, where you're just routinely racking up 40-plus fantasy points and routinely playing big minutes each night. It's a really good spot for Collins. And keep this in mind. With John Collins, his rebounding has been off the charts good, putting up astronomical numbers with huge rebound chance numbers each game, meaning how many opportunities does he have to rebound, and he's converting a large percentage of them, one of the best since the start of December. With Collins, it's not just the minutes. It's not just how efficient he's been. It's not just the double-double bonus on DraftKings, but it's the fact that he's facing a Washington team that, without Dwight Howard on the court this year, is dead last in rebounding. They've been terrible on the glass, and John Collins should be able to absolutely abuse them. He had 20 and 13 in 25 minutes against them earlier last month, mid-December. But that was a game where he got in foul trouble and played 25 minutes. So Collins still had 20, 13, and 41 fantasy points in 25 minutes, Dan. If he gets 37, 38 minutes, Collins could go I could honestly see him going for like 30 and 18 here.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, I really think there's that much upside.
That's a prime spot, and I have come full circle. Well, no, I've done a 180 to say that correctly. I've
There you go.
come around on John Collins completely over the past couple of weeks. Have become very enamored watching him play. Make sure to get my game film in each and every day, and make sure I get to watch John Collins as much as possible. On that game film. So let's talk about the rest of power forward as we roll through. It's tough. I don't see a ton of names here that I jump off the page as must plays. You have Anthony Davis. I assume he's playing here against Brooklyn. That's a crush spot, absolutely. But 11-8 is obviously very pricey, and you never know. There's obvious extra risk with him with the history we've seen with injuries. He could put up 80 to 90 DraftKings points on a night like this in a plum matchup with the Nets. Julius Randle in a good spot against the Nets as well. I guess we'll talk about Aaron Gordon here as well at 6,800 like he did at small forward. But what else? What do you got here at power forward? Who are some of the names that you're looking at beyond John Collins?
I mean, but everything you said is right. There's no question Davis could drop ridiculous numbers here. It's a spot that I love, but in the same breath, do you want to pay 11-8 for him and risk this? Now in tournaments, the answer should just be yes, right? Because you're taking risks. But still in GPPs, it's not like the risks you're taking generally aren't, well, this guy might not play. He might be a late scratch. The rule I have is whenever Anthony Davis is late scratched or gets injured during a game and everyone's super sour on him the very next game,
yep,
that's when I like to play him. And he very, very rarely goes down 2 straight games or doesn't or is late scratched in 2 straight games. Probably never happened. So yeah, I really like Davis. I really like the matchup. He should be able to manhandle this front court. Not to mention Rondé Hollis-Jefferson being sidelined should help Davis immensely because his defense, his wingspan, the guy's pretty stout defensively. But it's between him and Westbrook, and I really like Westbrook here too. It sounds crazy. Well, no, I'll preface it like this. If Davis plays his full allotment of minutes, he is the better and safer play than Westbrook, right? He's just been more consistent when he's actually on the court this year. He's shooting better, and the peripheral upside is insane. But that's not what we have. We have a guy that, carries a lot of risk into each and every night. So I love him, but I wouldn't blame anybody, and I'll probably do it too, for going Westbrook in a lot of spots over Anthony Davis. But I will still have him in tournaments. Anyway, John Collins, we talked about him. Paul George, much rather play him at a weaker small forward position. We also have Julius Randle. If his price is still, it's come up only $100 on DraftKings. He's $8K flat now. If you want to get exposure to this Brooklyn or against this Brooklyn front court, and not go with Davis, maybe still get Westbrook into your lineups. Julius Randle makes for a very, very solid play in this spot. And you're talking about a Nets team that has really struggled to defend opposing centers this year, allowing the 5th most points, the 2nd most rebounds to centers. But not only that, this is a team that has also been blocked. Centers are blocking them at the 7th highest clip this year. The numbers across the board for opposing bigs are really, really solid against Brooklyn. And Julius Randle should be able to put up some quality numbers here. So I like him as a pivot off Davis. I don't want them both in the same lineup. That's too expensive. But he's still, $3,800 cheaper than
yep.
Davis on DraftKings. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. The position's deep. If Irving's out, Tatum's going to at least be considered against Minnesota in a significant pace-up matchup. Thomas Bryant against Atlanta. He has power forward eligibility on DraftKings. And, Adam and I talked about this, the first start he got. Not the first start he got. The first start he had where Markieff Morris and Porter and all of them were out together. And we mentioned, look, we expect him to give you around 30 minutes, low end 28. He played 30 and then he played 36 the next game and has had 2 really strong efforts. Yes, Bryant's price is coming up. I still think if this guy is going to give you 30-plus minutes a night against this Atlanta front court that doesn't have Dwayne Dedmon, he's really a solid play, even at $4,700.
Yep, he is. Let me double check over on He is $17 over on Yahoo, which is a price point that's come up a bit on this slate. And Collins is 33, just to point that out. So 2 price points. Bryant's a little bit more expensive than I expected over on Yahoo. But nonetheless, he's a name that sort of checked a bunch of boxes here to start the research for me. Not seeing anybody else necessarily here really cheap that's at least worth mentioning. You get tons of minutes from guys like Wilson Chandler, but not a ton of upside with this offense. And even with someone like Embiid out, you're not going to see a ton go Chandler's way. I say that because I have to convince myself to stay away from him each and every day because his price point's so low. Anybody else before hitting on center and closing out?
Ed Davis, if you're looking for a just super low owned punt, is kind of interesting because Hollis Jefferson was actually getting some backup center minutes. Now that he's out, I think what you'll see is the only backup center will be Ed Davis. Now he's actually questionable, but I expect now he should play here. I think he just sat out on a back-to-back because of that last game, but I expect him to be the center that gets the run here. Kenneth Faried, by the way, played 27 minutes last game. I'm just throwing it out there. They're facing New Orleans. Rondé Hollis Jefferson played only 3 minutes. I know it sounds crazy, but what do you think? What do you think with Kenneth Faried? Because we know that it seems like coaching organizations have never really liked him. And I've always loved his style of play, kind of like a Montrezl Harrell. But for his career, Kenneth Faried is well over a fantasy point per minute guy.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right? I mean, he's someone that for his career is averaging 1.06 fantasy points per minute and has had seasons where he's been as high as 1.1. Not a big difference, but still, those are not bad numbers. Dude, if Kenneth Faried plays 25 minutes, you're going to love what you get from him against the New Orleans team that defensively has struggled at almost every single position this season. Yeah, it sounds crazy, but keep an eye out for some news. Kenneth Faried could get a significant amount of run here, depending on who's in and who's out. And another thing, Ed Davis sat that. Oh wait, no, was it the 28th? Yeah, Ed Davis sat that game out, so it's very likely that he's the one that gets the additional run, and Faried goes back to not really seeing much at all. But who knows? We'll see what we get here. Just keep close watch on these guys. If for some reason Davis actually does have an injury because he's still questionable, then I would actually consider Kenneth Faried.
All right, let's touch on what do we got at center. Karl Anthony Towns at 9,600. Vucevic, you mentioned, is questionable here. You have Embiid with the knee. We'll wait to see if he's in or out. Drummond gets to match up with Memphis. Marc Gasol on the other side of that one is at 7,400. We have a lot of mid-tier options here. Just don't know any in a perfect spot. I guess DeAndre Jordan has to be discussed at 6,500 against Charlotte with their front court injuries. What do you got at center?
All right, here we go. We'll close it out with this. Oh, and by the way, in case anyone was worried that Embiid might be hobbled or might not look great, there are 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Joel Embiid has played 10 minutes. He has 18 points, 5 rebounds, an assist, a block, and a steal. Is 2 of 4 from 3, no turnovers, with 31 fantasy points in 10 minutes played. So not bad, Dan. Not bad at all. It seems like he's perfectly fine. We'll see if he's limited. We'll wait for more news. If Joel Embiid is active, I feel like you're talking about someone with the amount of upside that he has would still be very much in play. DeAndre Ayton, one of his biggest issues had been boxing guys out. It looks like he's fixed that a bit and been better on the glass, but Phoenix still not a great rebounding team at all. And defensively in the front court, like I said, guys get to the rim at will against them. If you can post up guys like Ayton, you're going to have a very easy day. I still think Joel Embiid would be a flyer in terms of a tournament play because it is the second of a back-to-back. He was dealing with the knee issue. He isn't dirt cheap. You know, he's still 10-6 on DraftKings, 11K on FanDuel. But, man, this is an appealing matchup if I've ever seen one. So just keep him in mind if you want to switch things up and be different in the event that he's expected to play. But, yeah, so value here, Willie Hernan-Gomez. Do we know if he's going to see a ton of minutes? No, we don't. Cody Zeller played 24 minutes in that last game. Hernan-Gomez played 14 minutes. But no Zeller in the lineup is going to make a big difference because the other guys you have are like Frank Kaminsky, who's getting no run, basically half the minutes per game as Hernan Gomez, and you have Bismack Biyombo, who it's really, we don't know if Borrego even wants to play this guy. Hernan Gomez seems like the clear guy, the clear answer to get at least like 24 minutes and at a really cheap cost, $3,800 on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Oh, never mind. That's crazy. Wow. FanDuel 54. Do you think they preemptively priced him up? Or is it just because he's had some decent games recently? It's got to be that he's had some decent. That's way too high, though. I'm no interest there. I'd much rather look a lot of other places. Thomas Bryant, 6,600 on DraftKings. So you see now that he still is a very solid value on on DraftKings at 4,700, especially if he continues to get those minutes. And if Vooch is out, you have Mo Bamba. There's another one, right? If Vooch is out, Bamba's going to see 28, 30 minutes. He's producing about 1.1 fantasy points per minute this year. Solid numbers there. Yeah, we've got right now, we don't know the news on a lot of these guys, but there's definitely a possibility that we get a wealth of value here, an absolute, just a bevy of cheap plays that we can kind of put in everywhere. And we haven't seen that in a while. With the most interesting part about this is we could get a lot of value and there will still be some great value pivots off of the chalk as well, Dan. You just don't want to pivot off guys that are clearly great plays with a super cheap price point and a good matchup where fading them seems, not to really be worth the reward. Last thing here too, Steven Adams against the Lakers, still sub 7K on DraftKings. Anytime a center like Adams is facing the Lakers, I still have interest. Secondary play, but that's a good price point for sure.
Mo Bamba, $10 over on Yahoo. If you're looking for a bottom basement price point on him, if Vooch is out, you're going to find a couple of those throughout the day on Yahoo. And so check in. Make sure you're doing that extra due diligence. If you're playing over there, don't just try to port over your DraftKings or FanDuel lineups. The price points are different, so you'll want to do the extra research. And even just VLOOKUP, some sort of spreadsheet, just compare price points across different sites. You're going to find value across different ways of pricing, as Dave just pointed out as well with oh, wow. Sorry, I just read that the free agent shortstop Troy Tulowitzki is in agreement on a deal with the New York Yankees, pending a physical.
Get out of here.
According to Jeff Passan of ESPN.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Tulowitzki is expected to join the Yankees on a league minimum deal, with the Toronto Blue Jays paying the remainder of his $20 million salary. Well, there you go.
Wow. How about that?
So, as always, you can find Dave at Lofty_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. You find me at Dan Strafford. And, of course, you find Dave's write-up each and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the deep dive for NBA and for MLB. You'll want to stay tuned for the write-up on Wednesday. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD to get in for 1 week, and you can check out that write-up. We have a bunch of question marks here above 10K. We have Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, Joel Embiid, and LeBron James already out, but I am now contractually obligated to ask this question each and every podcast. Let's assume everybody's healthy. Let's assume everybody is playing at full minutes. Davis, Embiid, Westbrook, who do you got here as your favorite player to build around with the five-figure club?
All right. I'll go Westbrook in cash, Davis in tournaments, but I'm still playing Westbrook in tournaments as well. They're kind of interchangeable. I love both of them a lot in this spot. I think you'd agree. It's hard to nitpick outside of Davis's injury concerns. Those would be the guys. But Dan, whether it's Beal, Holiday, Booker, Collins, Randall, and I'm sure even Ben Simmons here, depending on Embiid's status, the 8K range on DraftKings at least is really, really loaded.
Absolutely, and one that you can build around pretty seamlessly. So that will be one to keep an eye on, and maybe build a little bit of a different lineup than most who will pay up for an AD or a Westbrook and then build from there. So get a little bit more balanced on Wednesday. With that said, we wish you the best of luck. As always, you get Emac and Adam on Thursday. Dave and I are back with you on Friday morning. I hope everybody had a great New Year's. Hope everybody's starting the year off right. And we'll continue to help you win some money here at awesemo.com. So best of luck. You'll be back with us tomorrow morning right here on the DFS Early Bird.